Happy Friday. Excuse me, TGIF. Hope everyone's getting through this volatile week all right, and hopefully you got a little more left in you to finish the day strong and get this week wrapped up and in the books. But as always, guys, let's dive right in and waste no time. I want to start, as always, with the overall market. So as we know, we've had a pretty volatile week this week, and if you're familiar with my teachings, one big thing that I always like to look for, because it's worked every time this year, is a drop down towards daily cloud. If we just look back at the beginning of January, that's been the theme, where it doesn't matter why we're dropping or who caused the drop, every drop gets picked up at daily cloud. Every drop. We're on our fifth time this week. So we got the flush, and for the first time, we actually hit the bottom of daily cloud. Kind of our first little extra warning here. But like all the time this year, we've gotten picked up so far. But just because we've gotten picked up doesn't necessarily mean that the market is safe and quote unquote, out of the woods and back to a bullish market. However, it did job one of holding up. And now job two is very simply trying to get through last week's consolidation that caused this flush to the cloud, right? We rolled over for a week, we sat still, and then we flushed on Friday. And we started this week pretty bloody. We spent all week trying to get right back to it. Now it's a big test for the market. And these are the simple levels that I want to keep an eye on. So hop in here, guys, and look at a drawing set that I'm working with. Here's a few things that I want to focus on. First is this little trend line from the lows. Anytime that a name starts to bottom, we need to put in higher lows. So we go lower on Monday and we don't go as low on Tuesday, starting this slight little uptrend. As you guys can see from this chart, we have point of control way above. We have the daily mean way above here at 44.40. And we also have the 50-day simple moving average, which again is pretty much this base, guys, of where we slipped last time. So we rally, we kiss it, and now unfortunately, we're slipping right back beneath it, specifically this 44.25 level. That's really going to be the one to set it off. So if we take a look, we are dripping down here overnight, or rather into this morning. And what I want to focus on, guys, is the following for today's session. One is, does this turn around and do we pop back to the mean? And do we kind of fight and, eventually end the week above this key zone, above this 4,400? Or do they take this chance into the weekend to sell us right off, right back down towards that, trend line that's been established here? This could be a very healthy pullback as well, but it also could be the start to rolling right back over. We'll have to find out. But between a big drop, guys, this week and a pretty nice recovery back to the daily mean, we could see chop today. Or with volatility still looming, we could see the market continue in either direction. Gotta wait and find out. But I'll be watching point of control above, daily mean, kind of this entire zone, and then also this trend line below with another really big level here at 43.88. So if the market can maybe, pop here this morning and reject here, could be a really good short. Vice versa, maybe it continues to dump a little bit into open, hits this zone, and then just like yesterday, explodes. A lot of straightforward levels in play, guys. Just got to be patient, have no bias, and as always, just read and react. If we take a look at tech, guys, all indexes are pretty much the same. We've dropped hard, we've bottomed hard, we went right back to that base from last week and are now rejecting it. Just like ES, we have a trend line established. We get it once, we get it twice, we almost got it 3 times, and now here we are officially touching it this morning. So again, same comments, guys, as ES. We rallied all the way back to the mean, and now we're trying to hold the 50-day simple here. So if we can hold this wedge and hold this zone, it could be a really nice pop back up to that key level. Or if we do start to slip it, we can head right back down towards that 15,100 level, breaking this trend line, breaking the 50. And again, maybe this was the pop for a very large drop. I'm not here to speculate. I'm here to read and react. And then for YM, guys, same crap here. Again, they're an index that needs to lead us probably more than anybody. They fell the most and they were the strongest yesterday, getting right back into that consolidation. If we take a look, why this one is a little bit, beneficial is it is down the least here. And you can see it's actually holding that prior consolidation rather than ES and NQ, who fell back below it. Right, I'm talking about this consolidation here. We want to see if YM can continue to hold this 43,361, aka hold this consolidation. If they can hold this consolidation, that's a step in the right direction. And obviously, we got to get through it for any bulls to take control. But we got ES starting to slip, we got NQ starting to slip. If YM starts to slip this key zone, again, guys, could be the pop for another really good drop. But keeping it simple here, as long as we hold the daily cloud, I'm overall generally bullish. Again, if we take a look, we held it nicely. We popped right back out of it. We'll see what happens. Can we break this resistance, or do we go back down and hold the cloud again? Really good levels here, guys, where if we hold here, the show goes on. If we can break through here, the bulls take over. And if we're back in cloud, we're probably back at low a day, and then probably breaking into next week. We're going to have to find out. Today's a really critical day for Mama Market. But with that being said, guys, obviously it's Friday, so we want to focus on SPX. So let's look at a few options that we can keep an eye on today. Let me just clean this chart up a little bit. Here we go. So let's look at SPX. What can we watch today? So rule of thumb, guys, whenever we're bleeding, into open here, so down since, futures started, always want to be a bit patient to the short side. Like we discussed, ideally, we'd like to see a pop up towards the zone to then short it. If the market just opens and flushes, I'll probably be looking to buy the dip first and foremost. But let's just assume we pop up to here and then start to flush. At that point, guys, I really like anything near the 4,400 puts. Because again, we want to focus on getting back down towards this key range. Let's get to near 4,400, call it 4,390. So these calls, guys, in this vicinity, these puts, this is what we want to focus on. Anywhere in that, $2 to $3, $4 range is looking like a nice little strike, especially if they bounce. They're going to get even cheaper, but can quickly go get in the money. And then to the flip side here, guys, again, say we do go a little bit lower and then maybe pop, want to focus on 44, 25 to 30 range. Right now, guys, the option premium does update, but the strikes do not move. So all of these calls are deeply in the money because they were yesterday. But if we head back down towards 4404, these are obviously not going to be in the money, and they're going to be cheaper. So I want to target calls that get us back towards 4425 to 4440, anywhere in this range once the chain updates it open. So always, guys, keep SPX on watch with vol and on Friday. Not a better name to focus on. Let's look at a few here. One name I do want to watch is Google. So we have a little news this morning. Apple and Google sued by Jawbone, whoever that might be, over patent violation and noise canceling technology. I think they'll be okay with that. Google's made a really, really nice bounce this week, going all the way from the 50-day simple all the way back to the daily mean. Taking a little bit of a drip here this morning. Personally, guys, I don't really focus on shorting Google. It's one of those names where I like to let it go lower and then look to buy the dip. So for today, again, if the market starts to turn around and shake this blood off, Google off 2,800 could be a really good dip buy. Looking to play it right back up towards that 2,830 zone. If it starts to go below 2,800, I'm just personally not super interested in it. It's just not my favorite name to short. But if it does break 2,800, could go see 2775-ish point of control if you do want to try to short this thing. But for me personally, again, if tech, opens red here and starts to rip, I love Google off 2,800. It's a very simple key level that we can keep an eye on. So look at some options here, and we'll get both sides. But for the upside, I want to focus on, 2830s or open cheaper side range that we'd want to focus on calls getting towards. And the furthest I'd go, guys, especially since it's Friday, is the 2850s. It's kind of a Hail Mary at this point. But the 2840s, 2835s, 2830s, these are all really good strikes. If Google does bounce, you'll get an awesome risk reward. And again, not my cup of tea. But if you do want to short it here, you're looking at a 43-point ATR. So again, down your point of control range, 2780 puts, 2790 puts, anything in this range. Friday, guys, are the easiest to select strikes. Focus on targets that are close. Focus on things that aren't too cheap and that offer a really good risk reward. But I like Google today. Another setup, guys, and again, I'm kind of familiaring myself with the pre-market here with you guys, and it looks like Roku got a nice little smack here. Wells Fargo downgrades Roku to equal late and lowers their PT to 350. Gotta love it after Guggenheim upgrades them to a buy with 395 PT, which caused them to spike yesterday. And now we're getting one that's causing them to drop here today. Roku, guys, has always been a big old mess as of recently. It's had these 4-hour squeezes that try to fire and then it fails. Tries to fire and then it fails. Roku definitely is a tough one. Personally, for me, my target this week on Roku was 338, getting back up to prior point of control. And now it looks like it's headed right back to our normal point of control, 322. Kind of watching where the key levels have been this month. So again, a little bit of a difficult one, guys. I was looking at last night and I was looking more so for a continuation to the upside in this little 30-minute squeeze it was forming. And now it's just dumping. So we're going to be patient on a Roku, but always a play to be had. So one is the following. If it does bounce here, guys, at open, it starts to fail this zone, and we start to see selling. This could be a really good entry near 328, 331 for a short back to point of control, 322. Vice versa, if it just keeps bleeding here this morning, I'll probably let it go and look to buy it back at point of control if it holds. So again, while I look for a bounce to short it because it's already bled a little bit here, or if it bleeds, just going to let it go lower and look for a dip buy if possible. Or maybe, let it bleed, let it pop back up to pre-market levels and then flush. But we never want to chase the lows or chase the highs on anything. So for downside here, just look at some puts. Let's see, 325, 320-ish our range. So, Roku's getting cheap here, guys. Don't go too far out. At the money is probably your best friend. So again, if we pop back to 328, probably want to focus on the 327.5s to 325 puts. Vice versa, maybe we just go a little bit lower and start to pop. Going to focus on the 330 calls. Those are going to get much cheaper here. We want to get back to our targets. And hey, maybe it even fills the gap. I don't know. But it's down quite a bit here. So definitely going to be patient on Roku. Again, if we can't break through this zone, we're going to go to POC most likely. Or if we can break the zone, we'll probably go fill that gap to 334. So I like the 330 calls on the upside, 335s. And then again, the 325s, 327s on the downside, especially if you get a little bit of a pop here. Something to work with. And again, might be a setup that, failed and goes back to doing nothing. But I personally like to play off really big levels. We got some nice ones in play here. Another setup, guys, I'm keeping an eye on is Moderna. It's been a really, really nice chart this week. Started with focusing on this big little wedge pennant that it had, looking for a breakout back to this key demand zone, supply zone rather. Broke out of it on Tuesday. Beautiful, beautiful push right to that zone. So now I'm working with another drawing set here, kind of flipping the script and focusing on the uptrend that it's been forming here. We got it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, call it 5 times. This trend line's been awesome. 2 ways, guys, to approach Moderna. Always want above and below thesis. Never want to be super, super biased. If we take a look at our breakout point of 446, we destroyed it yesterday. We're migrating lower here this morning. So for some reason, we open around this trend line around that key level. I love a dip buy back up towards 460. Kind of just like yesterday, where my target and plan was if we get a pullback near zone and trend line to play it back up. We're getting a pullback here to zone and trend line. Doesn't get better than that, guys, when you can combine levels, get a key level and a wedge. Look for that dip buy and play it back up to 460. So at that point, I'll be watching the 460 calls. It's my favorite strike right now. You can also keep an eye, guys, on the 455s if we do start to tread towards that 450 dip buy zone. And then vice versa here, guys. If we do start to, top out at these key levels, so say we, do a little slow grind here this morning, you could also consider shorting off of this 457, right back down towards that wedge. Or maybe it opens this morning and just bleeds through that wedge. At that point, I would expect it to go back towards 437, maybe even point of control if the market gets ugly today. It's not my job to anticipate how much is going to happen, but what could happen. So again, if you get the dip by here, guys, like the 455, the 460 calls, those offer some good risk reward. And then if it just continues to top out here, I want to focus on the 445 puts, and I also like the 450 puts, especially if it goes a little bit higher here before starting to fail. But if it just breaks this key level, guys, anywhere to the 440 puts, so 450, 45s, and 40s, well, I'll get the job done on the downside, and then we discuss the strikes on the upside. Let's see. I think I could give you guys probably one more setup. let's take a look at what Facebook's doing today. Facebook. So Facebook, kind of the poster child for weakness this week. They had some really negative news earlier in the week. They gapped below daily cloud, which has been the first time in a while. Below daily cloud is not a good look. They tried yesterday to get through it. You guys can see kind of that gap down level here. We kissed it. We're kind of failing. So looking for a very basic breakdown towards 334 on Facebook, which if you take a look, guys, it did sit here long enough to give us a decent little hourly squeeze. Not bad. Nothing too crazy to drool over, but I like it. So for Facebook, guys, two ways to approach it, where if the market does get ugly today, Facebook definitely needs to sell off. You know, they had some very negative news, which they don't have a crystal clear solution for, right? Facebook's ad business is being impacted by Apple's ad policy. Not good. So we'll see what happens here, guys. As long as they stay below this zone, I'm staying bearish, where if they do start to break the zone, they can go fill this little gap, which should be a good trade. And in the middle of that gap is also going to be that daily cloud bottom. So some very hard levels. Where if they just can continue to melt here and tech starts to go lower, I like a short on Facebook from 340 to 335-ish level. Ideally, guys, just like every good trade, we want to try to short high and buy low. So you can see this little key level from Wednesday is what ideally I would like to short off of, just like it's doing this morning. Yesterday kind of broke through it, but gave you a really nice short off that other level. So we'll see what Facebook gives today. But if it can kiss 346 and crumble, I love that trade to 340 and then maybe even 334. If it just maybe opens at the low, sits here, and crumbles, that's also a good trade. But keep in mind, guys, if it sits here and the market bounces, it could also be a really good dip buy. If a key level is in play, you want to, again, not have any type of bias here. But for Facebook, guys, stupid cheap. So don't go far out of the money. If it breaks down, 340s are nice. If it pushes to 346, the 345s are your best short strike. Again, if it just sits here and breaks, focus on 340s. If it pops a little bit and fails, 345s are your best friends. If it holds here, it continues to bottom, you can focus, guys, on the 345 calls to get you right back up to where this move started. But that's a few setups, guys, that I'll be watching. I did have one more here, but I'm assuming it's not really valid, and that is Amazon. I want to see if they could fill the gap here. Right, they've been kind of grinding nicely. They got back to the daily mean, back to the 50-day simple, and they got a little gap fill to work with. But obviously, they're gapping down a bit here. So I don't necessarily see them going all the way back and then filling the gap. So probably a setup that I'm just going to let go for today. So we got some Google, we got some Moderna, we got some Roku, we got some Facebook, we got some SPX. We got plenty of opportunity here, my friends. So thank you guys for joining me this morning. Hope I kept you awake and provided some value. Go out there, kick some butt, end the week strong. And I'll talk to you guys next week. But thank you so much for your time.